Crypto versus the dollar. Can Bitcoin replace U.S. power? The world is changing. The global financial landscape, once dominated by the U.S. dollar, is experiencing a seismic shift. At the heart of this transformation lies a digital asset, one that has captivated the world's imagination: Bitcoin. From a niche concept known only to tech enthusiasts to a multi-billion-dollar asset class, Bitcoin's rise has been nothing short of remarkable. But the real question is, could Bitcoin challenge the long-standing supremacy of the U.S. dollar? The U.S. dollar has long held the position as the world's reserve currency, a symbol of American economic and geopolitical power. Since the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, the dollar has been at the center of global trade, finance, and diplomacy. However, Bitcoin, a decentralized digital currency that operates outside traditional banking systems, presents a new form of money that could potentially rival or even replace the U.S. dollar. This script delves into Bitcoin's origins, its ascent into the mainstream, the challenges it faces, and whether it has the potential to displace the dollar from its throne. The genesis of Bitcoin, a reaction to financial crises. To understand the potential of Bitcoin to challenge the dollar, we must first trace its origins. The story of Bitcoin begins in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis. The global economic collapse exposed the vulnerabilities of traditional banking systems, highlighting the central role that governments and central banks played in financial instability. In this turbulent period, a mysterious figure, or group of individuals, known as Satoshi Nakamoto, published a white paper titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. The vision behind Bitcoin was simple but revolutionary: create a decentralized currency that would not be controlled by any central authority, such as a government or a bank, but instead be managed by a global network of computers. Bitcoin's creators sought to eliminate the intermediaries that have historically held power over money. With Bitcoin, individuals could send and receive money without the need for banks, credit card companies, or other financial institutions. Transactions were to be verified and recorded on a public ledger called the blockchain, ensuring transparency and security. From the very beginning, Bitcoin was designed to be a deflationary asset. Its total supply is capped at 21 million coins, meaning that no central authority could inflate its value by printing more currency, as is often the case with traditional fiat currencies like the U.S. dollar. The promise of Bitcoin was a financial system that could not be manipulated, offering individuals the freedom to transact outside the confines of government control. Bitcoin's early years, from obscurity to hype. Initially, Bitcoin was met with skepticism and was seen as an obscure project with little potential. During its first few years, Bitcoin had few real-world use cases. It was primarily used by tech enthusiasts and libertarians who saw it as an ideological tool for financial freedom. Its value was negligible, often priced at just a few cents per coin. However, a breakthrough came in 2010 when Laszlo Hanyecz, a Bitcoin enthusiast, made history by purchasing 2 pizzas for 10,000 BTC. This momentous transaction marked the first recorded real-world purchase using Bitcoin and symbolized the potential of digital currencies as a medium of exchange. In the following years, Bitcoin gained traction within niche online communities, particularly those involved in privacy-focused activities in the dark web. Silk Road, the infamous online marketplace, became one of Bitcoin's first major use cases, though this would later contribute to its association with illegal activities. By 2013, Bitcoin had begun to attract attention from investors. The first significant price surge occurred when Bitcoin hit $1,000 per coin, marking a major milestone for the digital currency. Despite its price volatility, Bitcoin's appeal continued to grow, especially as traditional financial systems seemed to falter. The U.S. Federal Reserve's response to the 2008 crisis, which involved aggressive monetary policy and quantitative Easing led many to question the long-term stability of fiat currencies like the US dollar. Bitcoin, with its fixed supply and decentralized nature, was touted as a hedge against inflation and currency devaluation. The path to legitimacy. From fringe to mainstream in 2014, Bitcoin's legitimacy was further solidified when Overstock.com became the first major retailer to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. This was a pivotal moment that signaled Bitcoin's transition from a fringe currency to a mainstream financial instrument. More businesses followed suit, including companies such as Newegg and Shopify, which integrated Bitcoin payments into their platforms. The cryptocurrency was slowly but steadily gaining traction. However, despite these early victories, Bitcoin still faced significant hurdles. One of the most significant challenges was the volatility of its price. Bitcoin's value fluctuated wildly, making it difficult for businesses and individuals to use it as a stable medium of exchange. Moreover, Bitcoin's reputation was marred by its association with illegal activity, particularly in the context of the Silk Road and other dark web marketplaces. In response, Bitcoin's community began to advocate for regulatory clarity and to distance the currency from its criminal associations. Over time, Bitcoin's perceived value began to shift. It was no longer viewed solely as a currency for transactions, but as a store of value akin to gold. This shift in perception was largely driven by institutional investors who saw Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation, particularly in light of the growing debt levels of countries like the U.S. Bitcoin's institutional adoption. The turning point by 2020, Bitcoin had begun to enter the realm of institutional investment. Publicly traded companies such as MicroStrategy, led by CEO Michael Saylor and Tesla, under the leadership of Elon Musk, made Bitcoin a central part of their treasury strategies. In 2020, MicroStrategy became one of the first major companies to purchase Bitcoin in bulk, acquiring over $1 billion worth of the cryptocurrency. Tesla followed in 2021 by announcing a $1.5 billion investment in Bitcoin, further legitimizing it as a mainstream asset. These high-profile investments ignited a wave of interest in Bitcoin from institutional investors. Firms like Grayscale, a digital asset management company, began to offer Bitcoin-related investment products to their clients. Investment banks such as J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs began to offer Bitcoin futures and other cryptocurrency-based financial products, helping to bridge the gap between traditional financial markets and the burgeoning world of digital currencies. Bitcoin's institutional adoption signaled a shift in its role in the global financial system. It was no longer just a speculative asset or a tool for fringe libertarians. Bitcoin was emerging as a legitimate store of value, recognized by some of the largest financial institutions in the world. Its market capitalization soared, breaking new records and attracting investors looking for an alternative to traditional assets like stocks, bonds, and commodities. Bitcoin versus the dollar. A battle for supremacy. At this point, the question is no longer about whether Bitcoin will replace the US dollar, but rather how it could potentially challenge the dollar's long-standing supremacy. The US dollar has been the dominant global reserve currency since the end of World War II, the position it solidified through the Bretton Woods Agreement. The dollar's status as the world's primary reserve currency allows the U.S. to print money at will, financing its deficits and maintaining a high standard of living for its citizens. However, this dominance is not guaranteed. The rise of digital currencies, Bitcoin among them, has begun to erode the dollar's role in global trade. Several factors are contributing to this shift. First, Bitcoin offers an alternative to the dollar's inflationary tendencies. As central banks continue to print money, the value of fiat currencies like the dollar is being devalued. Bitcoin, with its fixed supply, stands as a potential hedge against this devaluation. Countries with unstable currencies, such as Venezuela and Zimbabwe, have already turned to Bitcoin as a store of value to preserve their wealth in the face of hyperinflation. Second, Bitcoin's decentralized nature makes it resistant to government control. Unlike the dollar, which is subject to the whims of policymakers and central bankers, Bitcoin operates on a peer-to-peer network that is free from government interference. This makes it an attractive option for individuals and businesses who want to avoid the risks associated with central banking systems. Finally, Bitcoin's borderless nature makes it a viable alternative for international trade. The dollar's dominance in global trade has been reinforced by the fact that most commodities, including oil, are priced in dollars. However, Bitcoin can be used for cross-border transactions without the need for intermediaries like banks, reducing transaction fees and increasing efficiency. As more countries begin to embrace Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, the dollar's role in international trade could begin to diminish. The rise of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. While Bitcoin is gaining traction, central banks around the world are also exploring their own digital currencies. These central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are government-backed digital currencies designed to function alongside traditional fiat currencies. The idea behind CBDCs is to provide the benefits of digital currencies, such as faster, cheaper transactions, while retaining control over monetary policy. China has been leading the charge in developing a CBDC known as the digital yuan. The digital yuan has already been tested in several cities, and China has used it in cross-border trade with countries like Russia and the United Arab Emirates. The rise of CBDCs poses a direct challenge to Bitcoin as they offer many of the same benefits without the volatility and lack of regulation associated with cryptocurrencies. However, Bitcoin's decentralized nature remains one of its key advantages over CBDCs. While CBDCs would be controlled by governments, Bitcoin operates outside the control of any central authority. This makes it a more attractive option for those seeking financial freedom and independence from government control. Bitcoin's potential to replace the dollar. Despite the challenges, Bitcoin's potential to replace the dollar is becoming increasingly realistic. The rapid growth of Bitcoin's market capitalization, its adoption by institutional investors, and its ability to function as a hedge against inflation make it a powerful contender in the race for global monetary dominance. The U.S. dollar's role as the world's reserve currency has been challenged before. In the 1960s, the U.S. faced pressure from the rise of the Deutsche Mark and the Japanese yen. More recently, China has made significant strides in reducing its reliance on the dollar through its digital yuan and international trade agreements that bypass the dollar in favor of the Chinese yuan. Bitcoin's growing influence could signal the beginning of a new era in global finance, one where the U.S. dollar no longer holds an undisputed position of power. However, this transition is likely to take time. Bitcoin's volatility, regulatory uncertainty, and energy consumption are all significant obstacles that need to be addressed before it can fully replace the dollar. The future. A new monetary world? In the coming years, we may see a world where Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies play an integral role in global trade and finance. The dominance of the U.S. dollar may begin to wane, giving rise to a more multipolar monetary system. Central banks will continue to experiment with digital currencies, while Bitcoin's decentralized nature may continue to attract individuals seeking financial freedom from traditional banking systems. The future of Bitcoin and the dollar is uncertain. But one thing is clear. The rise of cryptocurrencies has already begun to change the global financial landscape. Whether Bitcoin will replace the dollar remains to be seen, but it's clear that the world of money is evolving, and Bitcoin is at the center of that evolution.